Alright, so there's a number of different ways that you can terminate one of these data cables. One of the simplest ways that I've found is by using a proper data connector tool. So this one here, it can terminate the actual cables, it can cut and strip and also be locked in place, so like that. So it says there, cut, and cuts down, like that. And then of course strip, put it into there, go once around, of course hopefully it doesn't lock, and then it comes off just like that. So, but of course you don't have to use a tool like that. So what you can do is just simply have an old knife, preferably one with a decent sharp blade. This particular one I tend to use because you can quickly reload it just like that. So, nice new blade, get the cable, cut it off like that. I think it's working. And try not to sit on the cable, and just lightly mark the cable, again going once around, and that should be enough to bend and pull off of that. Now that may take a few attempts, but yeah, so that's that. Or you can even use a tool like this that is designed for data cable and aerial cables, and you can use this. So poke down, poke through once. There we go, just like that. Now, for the actual plug part, you want to get rid of that. And then these, then cut off like that. So again, be careful. But of course, yes, you can use that if need be. Basically does the same thing. Now, untwisting these, there's a few different ways that that can be done. Personally, I just find just twisting it like that is fine. But some people I have seen like to get with an offcut and put it down the side and spin around like that. Some people find that easier. It's up to you, basically. So, do that again. And of course, 2, 3, 4. There we go. Now, these colours, you'll get the twists or the bends out of them as much as possible. Again, there's a few different ways. Sometimes I've seen people get the smooth edge of a tool and hold it against that, straighten it out like that. Seems to work. Personally, just because you can sometimes damage the cables if you're not being too careful, I just tend to do that, and then left and right if you want. So up, down. Oh, it's got a twist still. Anyway, unzip that, and yeah. So there's a few different, well, at least 2 different ways. Now, as per this diagram here, so it has the colour codes on it as to what the plug needs to be. Now, there's a few different ways that this can be interpreted, but depending on the plugs as well, can also make a difference. But personally, I tend to use these pass-through ones these days. So yeah, so as you can see, it has an open end for the cable, And so, as the name implies, they pass through the wiring. So that goes into there and squishes down. So as a result, when it comes to terminating it, that is the orientation of the wiring. So, just to make it easier for me, I'm going to go like that. So, personally, I always do the A configuration, which starts with the green and white. So, and I always like to bend that over just to keep it there, stop it from easily pulling off. So, green, and yeah, got it in the wrong spot. So, pull out, try again. So, green, then green and green and white, then green. Next up is orange and white. Of course, I'm having a problem at the moment. Normally I can get these quite easily, but tonight they are not working too well. So, green, white, green, orange, white. Next up is blue. So we do blue. Then blue and white. Yeah, see, that went nice and easy. Next up, orange. Come on. Sometimes you do have to encourage them through. Then next up is brown and white. And again, got to be nice and straight. Yes, that's working. Sometimes you can get one in particular that's been a nuisance. There we go. Sometimes if you're careful, you can just pull them through. Yep, I'm having a really bad time tonight. So yeah, make sure they are nice and perfectly straight. And they should just poke through. Sometimes you do get one that's been a problem. Oh, why not? Come on. See, if you're careful, you can sometimes pull it through. Yeah. So yeah, normally it's a bit simpler than that, but anyway. So now the next thing is with the step in the plastic housing, this blue insulation wants to go and meet up to where that is. Now there's a few different ways that you can do this, but sometimes you can just simply pull on these. Other times you may want to get some pliers involved, even though it's not technically recommended, but needs must. Then sometimes you will notice one of them crossing over like that and bending, so pull it straight, give it a tweak because why not. And then if it's still been a pain, well, you can just encourage the housing through just like that. And yes. So yeah, it's not perfect, but you see it is at least through the housing and beyond the clip. So now with your crimp tool, simplest way I've found is just to give them a twist like that, and then go like that. Make sure it sits all the way through, which it is, and then done. Finally. So now for the other end, and like I say, that's the standard pass-through connectors. So we will now do the other ones, which is the two-piece connectors. It doesn't really matter which ones you use. Some people prefer the two-piece, some people prefer the push-through. As long as you do the connections fine, chances are you'll never have any issues. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Should really be a bit less, so pliers. Again, you don't have to use all different tools. You can just have just the one, and just got to be careful about how you use the cut, and yeah, it'll work. There we go. So now straighten the wires. There we go. Reasonably straight. So now for these two-piece ones, which they have the other half in these little bags, or at least this brand does. Now you've got to make sure when you put it in, if it's in the correct orientation and whatnot. So this one should be in that direction for this one. So yeah, because any other way, yeah, it's definitely not going to work with the pins punching through. So yes, so we shall start like that, which means that based upon that wiring code, it will be like that. So we start with green and white. So green and white, and again I always like to just do that just to prevent it from coming off, and then green, next up is orange and white, didn't get it quite nice and straight, so just give that little tweak. So orange and white, that's good. That's a bit better. Okay, next up, blue, and then blue and white, then orange, and just visually, yes, cool, and then brown and white, and then last but not least, brown. There we go. Now, there's a few different ways that this next part can be done. Again, it doesn't really matter what you do as long as you do it right. Do it nice and straight across and flush, basically. So there's a few different ways that I've done it in the past, but what I tend to do is push this right the way down to about there. Get that, make sure that it's going to line up. Then get either pliers and cut them off flush like that, or I have seen some people get a knife and land on a cutting surface, carefully cut the wires flush. Not the easiest to do, even on a good day, but yes, it is possible. You do have to be careful the wires don't shift though. So, personally, because usually I have my pliers on me, I tend to use the pliers. But again, you can use the cut function on these to get it so that it is nice and straight. Try not to cut the plastic housing. Yeah, not a perfect cut, but it'll do for today. So then, I personally like to just back it off a little bit. Yeah, just so that the wires are not exposed through the ends. So again, you don't have to do it that way, but that's what I'd like to do. Some people are probably going to look at this and go, oh dear God, why are you doing that? But anyway, and then there, that is now pushed on, and yeah, as you can might be able to see, it goes all the way through. It doesn't stop like halfway down or whatever, it goes right to the end. So yeah, so it goes all the way through, and yeah. So now we get the crimp tool, pick it all the way through, and there we go. Now, little tip, these are designed for the push-through connectors, not for these two-piece connectors. So if you do, you will find that sometimes they slice off the end of it and you end up with a little tab of plastic. So be aware of that, and yeah, either carefully snap it off with your fingers, or worst case scenario, get to and trim it off. Sometimes that works, other times you have to be very careful. Try not to cut yourself. See, that has actually cut all the way through today. Okay, it seems this brand is actually worse for it. Well, that's fun. Previously they haven't actually cut the way through, they've just taken a little piece off the end. But for some reason today, literally today of all days, it's decided to cut the entire end piece off. So, let's show you. So, don't know how easy this will show up, but the entire end piece is now missing. Now, depending on the install location, it may or may not make a difference. So, yeah, just try and use the right crimper for the right type of plug. Use a push-through crimp tool for a push-through plug, and a two-piece crimp tool for the two-piece connectors, the two-piece plugs. But yeah, it's fun. But anyway, so yeah, one very short patch lead. But yes, that is roughly, very basically, how you do a patch lead. And as long as the colours are the same, then ideally, to minimise interference and signal loss, that colour orientation will work just fine. So, yeah, now like I say, the Type B configuration, doesn't matter if you use Type A or Type B, the only difference is the greens and the oranges are in different locations. As long as you do the same orientation on each end, it will be just fine.